What's up, y'all? It's Gabe, and this is why Only Murders in the Building is the best, and I mean the best, murder mystery comedy TV show or movie, and why the third season especially is the best. And yes, even better than some classics like Clue, Murder on the Orient Express, or even a newer classic like Knives Out or Glass Onion. First things first, the way that the characters meet and how plot points unfold in the story is extremely realistic. They meet after someone pulled the fire alarm in season 1, and that's when they start talking about their lives and how they got there, their backstories, and it really helps establish a real connection between those characters. On top of that, it's super funny how they all collectively agree that, you know what, the best way to solve these murders, clearly, is to make a podcast. But the way that they aren't necessarily friends at first, but how the relationship develops is extremely compelling to watch. And like I mentioned before, realistic. They don't just start off best friends, going to each other's houses, talking about whatever, talking about like their unknown daughters or whatever. They build up to that, and it takes time, which is really compelling to watch. I also love the way that Oliver, Charles, and Mabel all bounce off each other perfectly in the show, making their dialogue and actions within the show extremely realistic. They especially do a great job of this in season 3 because they're living their like best life, and so it's hard for all three of them to find time to talk to each other about the murder that happens. But I think that I can clearly say the best thing about this show, and the main reason why it's the best murder mystery comedy out there, is because the mystery is an actual mystery, while still being funny at the same time. Nothing feels forced, and everything just fits perfectly like a puzzle. And just think about that for a second. A lot of current murder movie mystery out there is just not nearly as good as this. For example, we obviously have those trash murder mystery movies with Adam Sandler, in which it's just not funny and the mystery is just plain boring. And we have the Hercule Poirot trilogy with Murder on the Orient Express, as I mentioned earlier, Death on the Nile, and A Haunting in Venice. And the problem with those movies is the first movie is decent because it is a lot more focused on the actual mystery itself, but it essentially has no ties to the comedy genre. And in the later entries, it tries to place a bigger emphasis on that comedy, but fails to do so because the mystery aspect just gets dragged down. Whereas in this show, they don't litter the show with comedy every 5 seconds. They place small bits and bites of jokes every once in a while, sort of like how a good horror movie places jump scares sparingly. Because everybody knows, with too many jump scares, the horror movie won't actually be scary. It's just gonna make you flinch. And subsequently, with too many jokes littered about, the TV show won't be funny. So it does a great job at timing those jokes for when the audience doesn't expect it. Now, in talking about the mystery aspect, the show does a fantastic job at leaving the audience and the characters two separate trails of evidence so that both groups of people will come to their own conclusions. This is a great way to fill the audience in on what is happening and still give them work to do in order to try and solve the mystery first. While watching the show, I was always paying attention to anything out of the ordinary because I just got that competitive with the cast and I was trying to beat them and solve what happened with the murders first before they did so. And that's something the show does, which is great. They make it so the motivations for the murders make sense. The actual murder itself makes sense. The way the trio finds evidence and continues tracking down leads makes sense. Everything in this show, you can see how it happened, why, and it will all be understandable. And the way that it provides at least one strain of evidence for the viewers and one strain of evidence for the cast makes it so if you want to solve it yourself, you can do so. But if you just want to relax and watch the show, the characters will walk you through their thought process on how they solve it. And one of the reasons why everything makes sense is, for example, you can see in one scene, Oliver's dog gets poisoned. And yeah, it's a bit lazy to make his son a veterinarian, but then he goes and they're able to see what type of chemical is used in the poisoning, and that takes them down another path of available options to exercise. Whichever writers came up with the mystery in the show need to be applauded, because every little interaction, every little piece of evidence, or even small item in the corner that you might think is insignificant plays at least a role, even if it, albeit, is a small one, in part to how the murder actually happened or how the trio goes about solving the mystery and finding evidence. Furthermore, I love how the killer isn't actually revealed to us in the beginning. Like some murder mystery pieces of media, they just show right at the beginning who the killer is so that we can pick up on pieces of evidence and analyze it. But this show gives us time to check out those different pieces of evidence and come to our own conclusions, or like I mentioned before, just follows with the actors in the show. I also love the number of red herrings in the show that it provides. I would like to think that I'm a pretty smart guy, but with the crazy number of red herrings that these seasons have, it makes it difficult to predict who the killer actually is. And this also benefits the show massively because it makes the audience want to rewatch the show to see what clues they missed and to see who the killer actually is before they are revealed in the finale episode. Added on to that, I love how everybody in the trio has their own part to play when it comes to solving the murders themselves. Not one person finds all the clues, and each of the members have some special skills that can help them when finding certain leads, so they can all play a part in solving the murder. And a lot of the times they often have to work together with each other to get certain parts of evidence and stuff like that, and analyzing it. And they can all add their own insights, theories, commentary, and even jokes to the mix, making the show much more interesting. It also opens up the possibilities for who the killer is, because it could be Mabel's friend, Charles's daughter, Oliver's arch enemy, and any one of their lovers, the landlord. Literally anybody that you see in the show that isn't just like a passerby is guilty until proven innocent, meaning characters have to exhaust all different possibilities, including who did it, how, when, why, and where. Along with that, did they collaborate with anyone? And any other questions you would ask in a murder. I'm not really a specialist in detective work, so I can't really add more questions to that. On top of that, one thing that I'd like to touch on is the music in this show. It's absolutely fantastic, especially the song that usually plays when the episode ends. I frequently find myself sitting in the credits just listening to the song choice that they made, because not only is it amazing, but it feels like it fits perfectly into the part of the story that we're at. One thing to me that also stands out about this season compared to the other two is the way that after the second season finished, before the cliffhanger was shown, everybody's lives had been going great, so it's understandable that Charles and Oliver are too busy to continue podcasting with Mabel because they're focused on their acting and different careers respectively. Not only that, many shows fail to tackle the difficulty of moving on, and I feel like this show does that fantastically. I was so shocked as well when I watched episode 8, where Detective Williams came back. One of my critiques that was that Detective Williams wasn't in the show, because in season 1 and 2, she absolutely stole the show with every scene she was in, and she was one of my favorite characters. But when I initially saw some random dude to replace her in episode 1, I was so sad. And then when episode 8 came along, I was like, thank God she's back, because literally, like I mentioned before, she steals every scene she's absolutely in. It's so fun to watch, and I really hope she gets more roles in like more well-known media after those performances. And what the hell was that ending? I know the show loves to end the season with someone else getting murdered, because obviously, how else would the next season start? But they did such an amazing job with this last season compared to the first two that it's so sad and perfect, and it concludes definitely the best season of Only Murders in the Building for sure. And I mean, those are some reasons why I think this show is literally the best murder mystery comedy movie, TV show, whatever, out there right now. Because I can't even find a single negative to complain about, because it's just, I feel like, so perfect for me. And that's my review for Only Murders in the Building, and why it's definitely the best piece of media that's come out in the murder mystery comedy genre so far. And if you're still here, I'd like to say thanks for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.